American values were brought over with the first settlers. They came seeking freedom, religious tolerance, and a greater measure of self-government. But their ideas were not new. Early influences on American values stretch back more than 2,000 years to the ancient world. From Judaism and Christianity, our nation's founders would take the principles of justice, morality, and the equality of all people. From ancient Greece, where the city-state of Athens functioned as a democracy, they took the idea that citizens have the right to make decisions about their government. From ancient Rome, whose people set up a republic, they borrowed the idea that would allow citizens to choose government representatives. Colonial life would shape the vision of American values. For a long time, the continent's vast wilderness and distance from the Old World granted colonists unequivocal freedom. They did not have to accept second-class treatment when freedom was as close as the next area of unsettled land. As time passed, the colonists became increasingly self-reliant. They bought furniture made by New York carpenters, tools made by New England blacksmiths, and grains grown by farmers in Pennsylvania. They were no longer dependent on Great Britain for all their goods. The colonies were becoming independent. 1775. The seeds of discontent are brewing in the 13 colonies. Though they had once considered themselves loyal British Americans, the colonists now are foremost Virginians, New Yorkers, or Pennsylvanians. In a time when it takes 2 months to cross the Atlantic Ocean, the colonists scowl at the thought of being governed from 3,000 miles away. They would no longer accept British rule. They would now become the United States of America. Representatives from the 13 colonies gathered for the Continental Congress in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They were about to be entrusted with conceiving of and writing the most important documents of our nation. The Declaration of Independence would ring with the proclamation that all men are created equal and are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The preamble to the U.S. Constitution, written a few years after the end of the Revolution, would safeguard our rights to self-government with the words, "We the people." One nation, united by our values of equality, liberty, and self-government. Our nation's history had begun. The United States is a country built on utopian ideals, and yet there is no guarantee that people will live up to them. Thomas Jefferson wrote the words, "All men are created equal." Yet even Jefferson professed not to know the exact meaning of equality. A slave owner, Jefferson had made a distinction between free citizens who were entitled to equal rights and slaves who were not. And while the Civil War would later bring an end to slavery, it would not end racial oppression. Segregation in the Jim Crow era was tantamount to legalized racism. And for those who spoke out against racism, there were beatings, firebombings, and assassinations. Despite lofty claims that all men are created equal, equality is not an American birthright, nor is happiness or personal freedom. America's values are constantly in conflict. Yet our shared values are important. For it is in the aspiration of these values that we have seen the greatest social and political change. And if we have seen the darkest moments in our history in fear and prejudice, that we have seen the greatest moments in the history of our founders.
Did you know? America is often called a nation of immigrants. The most well-known American immigration center is Ellis Island. Between 1892 and 1954, millions of people passed through here in an attempt to become U.S. citizens. Today, 1 out of every 2 Americans has an ancestor who first landed at Ellis Island.
Now it's your turn to answer a question. How do shared values connect Americans?